Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Saha Viryam Karvavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu Ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om. Vasudev Vasutam Devam Kamsa Chanuramardanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum. Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum. Okay. So, we finished verse 27 last time of chapter 9 of Bhagavad Gita. Today we'll do verse 28. And just to summarize a little bit what happened, 27. Well, maybe a little bit summary will be good to come to this point. So, in this chapter, Bhagwan talked about his Nirgun Nirakar Swarup. But then also he said that same time Bhagwan also appears like this world Sagun Sakar. So both are Bhagwan. So when we say that, hey, what is the roop of Bhagwan? It is Nirgun Nirakar from one angle and Sagun Sakar from the other. And this world is with qualities and form and various, so many different powers and all that. But the God alone appears like this world. So that's what we have to remember. And then one point is that even though everything is Bhagwan, but all the different beings, they seem to have a separate identity like us. And each one of us feel that we are different from the world and from God. And that's why we have to study Vedanta, we have to study Bhagavad Gita to feel that oneness. So what Bhagwan was saying, that if we have this attitude of a difference, then we keep going in this chakra of birth and death, cycle of creation. We are kind of tied up with it again and again. And then he was just saying that all different kinds of people approach Bhagwan in different way. So he talked about all different people. There are people who are involved in various kind of rituals and they try to acquire a lot of punya so they can go to Swarg. But then we also learned that going to Swarg is also temporary. You go there, have a vacation, come back. So that's not permanent either. And then there are people who worship forces of nature probably, different devatas and all that. And then if Bhagwan said that if you're doing that, you are indirectly worshipping me only, but not with proper solid knowledge. So, and not with knowledge and wisdom about me. So if you do worship the devatas and all, then they have a limited power and you will get limited result. Again, it will be temporary and limited. Or some people worship ancestors. Again, the same thing. You will get the lokas of the ancestor, temporary, and and the other people are like they might worship matter, in the world, different things. Some people worship money. So with whatever you worship, you will get that result. It's going to be simple. And then Bhagwan says a very profound thing, that he's saying, those who worship me attain me. So there's a lot of powerful statement in it that, understanding Bhagwan from Bhagwan only, who Bhagwan is. And then he also said that, look, worshipping me is not that difficult. It's pretty simple. And then he started with that patram pushpam phalam toyam. But then he had two conditions, pure mind and devotion. So those are the two things we have to learn to develop. And then in the previous verse, he said something very interesting, and that is like the highest kind of bhakti is what? When you offer and dedicate yourself to me. So means whatever you do, and then he divided those, whatever we do in like puja, dan, tapa, what you eat, everything you offer to me only. And this is another way of explaining karma yoga actually. And that's how we will see when we come to verse 28. So basically saying that let your whole life be a dedication unto me in all activities also. You belong to me, So once we understand it this way, God this way, this can be done. Because the more we try to understand who God is, it will be easier to do this. And at one point it will become so automatic and sahaj. You can't get away from Bhagwan, like that. So that's why we are studying this Bhagavad Gita, because it started from chapter 7 on, tell us who he is. And then, Nikhilanandji cautions us that don't have this imaginary God and all that, because we have to stick to what Krishna Bhagwan is saying, who God is, and not this limited concept of God, because then all the fanaticism and all come. Or he was saying, don't superimpose some shortcoming of your shortcoming on God. So, most important is try to understand from his perspective, himself. Because somebody was saying that Bhagavad Gita is so good and important because it's coming out from the lips of Bhagwan himself. From the horse's mouth, like they say, himself is saying. Okay. So, and then another point is that once we dedicate all the activities to God, then we attain the oneness with God. So now the question was, like we had asked, that, okay, what is in for me? I do all this because there's always, human mind is like that, mujhe kya milega? मैं बताता हूँ अभी क्या मिलेगा तुझे. So that's what the next verse is. शुभाशुभं फलैरेवं मोक्ष्यसे कर्म बन्धनैः संन्यासयोगयुक्तात्मा विमुक्तो मामुपैष्यसि. So shubh ashubh falaihi means from good and evil fruits. Means whenever we do karmas, if they are good karma, we get good result, bad karma, we get bad result, right? Both. And sometimes, we may be thinking we are doing such a great karma, but कुछ negative result भी मिल जाता है because हमारी नजरों में हमने बहुत अच्छा किया, but maybe we hurt somebody, I'm just saying that it's hard for us to judge. So in Bhagavad Gita, they are telling you तुम कर्म बंधन से ही छूट जाओ. And what that means, we will try to understand from this verse. So Shubha Shubham Phalam. All of us get that in this world. Nobody can escape that. Evam is thus. So after Krishna Bhagavan explained everything, he's saying thus, from good and evil fruits, moksha se. So this word moksha means actually the Sanskrit, uska jo meaning hai na, moksha word is so common, right? हम लोग बहुत हमेशा यूज करते हैं मोक्ष में, we want to strive for moksha. What does it actually mean? The word means freedom. Okay, so here Bhagwan is saying तुमको कर्म बंधन से मोक्ष मिलेगा. So actually मोक्ष वही होता है. When से किसी को मोक्ष मिल गया, they are not bound by anything. That's why the other words for moksha is nirvana, freedom. All these words are kind of synonyms. And then sannyasa yoga yukta. Sannyasa yoga. So this is almost like a contradiction. Renunciation and yoga mean jodna. And then there is another word, yuktatma. So it's like play with words. Sannyasa yoga yuktatma. Yuktatma means the man who is like vimukt ho gaya ho jo, kind of free ho gaya ho. And then these are words that we'll have to understand a little deeply, that why did Bhagwan say sannyasa yoga yuktatma? When we do the meaning, we will see it. Here Bhagwan, Swamiji has mentioned with the mind steadfast in yoga of renunciation. So we'll try to understand. Vimukta is liberated. So that's what it is. And then mama is to me, upeshyasi shall come. Bhagwan ne bola tha na ki जो ऐसा करेगा, जो डेडिकेट कर देगा सारा एक्शन टू मी, he will attain me or come to me or get moksha or become vimukt. All those are same meaning of this. So let's try to understand what he's saying. So the word evam over here means thus one who performs the action dedicating everything to me. So such a person, usko karma bandhane moksha se, he becomes free. Free of what? Free of karma bandhan. Why did Bhagwan say that? Because this sansar is also indicated by karma bandhan. We all are kind of tied up. Don't we feel bound? मुझे ये करना है, वो करना है. सुबह से शाम तक हम लोग को to do की लिस्ट लगी हुई है, right? कर्म बंधन से बंधे हुए हैं हम लोग. So all our desires, all our vasanas turn into desire, and desire force us to act, right? So they compel us to act. That's why we are doing it from morning to evening, running around. So how he was explaining, Nikhilanandji, that these desires are constantly arising in our mind, and then we want to get results. उसके लिए हम लोग सब कुछ करते हैं, right? और बट भगवान ने पहले बोला है कि look, give up the result of action. That's what karma yoga is. But we have to remind ourselves from the previous verses. But let's see the proper context of it. So, we are trying to get fulfillment from these desires. And then another very important thing that Nikhilanandji pointed out, that this process doesn't even end when we die. This trying the karma bandhan. You know why? Because when we die with lots of desire in our mind, unfulfilled desire, then what do we have to do? Take birth again to fulfill those desires. That's why in chapter 8, whoever was here in chapter 8, Bhagwan said, the one at the time of death, whatever your last thought is, that's what your next life will be determined by that. And the last thought is always the most predominant desires. So if you desire God only, that's what you will attain. If you desire other things, then everything ties up. Now you see how this verse ties up with everything. So this is what happens, that when you die with a desire, we are born again to perform other kinds of actions to fulfill those desires. And then it's a chakkar chalu rehta hai, bondage of action and birth and death. So that is the connection. So what the conclusion is, as long as we have desires and also the sense of doership. Sense of doership is like my ego. My ego is when I forget who I am. That, I am like that Bhagwan. Unke essence mein main Bhagwan hi ho, everybody is the same. But I feel this separation. That's what ego is. So that creates the bondage. I'm trying to kind of catch it from every angle, that what this means, this verse. But what Bhagwan says, that the one who follows this path indicated by the scripture, dedicate all his actions to God, he's saying such a person becomes free of karma bandhan. Okay, so now, why did he say good and bad results? Because both of them are binding. Now somebody say, well, what's wrong with a good result? That's what I want. Now think about it this way. Suppose I have a lot of good vasanas. I want to do a lot of social service. I want to do this. I want to do that. And then now when I die, वो भी अधूरी रह जाएगी मेरी इच्छा. अरे मेरे को बहुत सारी सोशल सर्विस करना है, मेरे को बहुत सेवा करना है, राइट? अगर वो डिजायर होगी तो क्या होगा? फिर मुझे जन्म लेना पड़ेगा. See that what I'm saying? That's why Bhagwan said it's like a chain. Any kind of desire is a chain, according to Vedanta. एक को बोला कि लोहे की चेन है, bad desires and all that. I want this, I want that, material things. And the goody desire, they seem very, very good. But in the end, you have to drop that too, because there's like a gold chain. Gold chain also binds you. तुम फिर भी बंधे हुए हो. It's something like, you tell somebody who is in the jail, you stay in the jail, I will give you khana, pina, kapda, everything I will give you. Whatever you want, I'll give you. And Baba is still in jail. He's not free, right? So good desire, bad desire, both of them. So we understood that this keeps us in sansar. So what Nikhilanandji was saying is very funny. So he said that, everybody wants, good vacation, right? We want to go to Swarg and all that. And nobody wants to go to Nark. But he said, actually, देखा जाए ना, तो Nark और Swarg दोनों ही बंधन है. Right? So even वो भी, चलो vacation करके वापस आना पड़ेगा हमें. So फिर, why not have a complete freedom? So they were just telling us that. Because sometimes we kind of distinguish it. But, at the highest level, both become a problem. तभी बोलते हैं ना कि don't have too much love and too much hate for anybody. Have you heard of that? अगर बहुत ज़्यादा attachment और love ये वो होएगा तो फिर कई जन्म लेने पड़ेंगे उसको निभाने के लिए, उन रिश्तों को. तो 7 जन्मों का रिश्ता for this thing for couples. So You have to take birth again and again. They are trying to make us free. So, and then another thing, very interesting point Nikhilanandji brought up. He said that actually remaining in this world with this notion that, I am such a little person, I can't do anything, and I'm so limited, वो भी एक bondage ही है. Because तुम्हारा nature तो free है एकदम, and you are kind of immersed in ignorance. All of us together, we are immersed in ignorance because we feel so bound and we feel so limited. And he gave a drishtant. This is take this drishtant just as a drishtant. I'm not trying to kind of belittle anything, or you will see the drishtant. So he's saying something like slavery. Suppose if few generations of them were slaves. This is just a hypothetical situation. So, like, this child is born, उसका father भी slave होता था, अभी ये भी slave है और उसका बच्चा भी slave ही होगा, right? So after a while, they don't even know what slavery is. They don't question, unless you think about it. Hey, you know what? These people are taking advantage of me. I'm a slave. They just think that is how life is. Unless कोई किसी में Jagrati aa jaye, and then he gathers people and say, do you know that they're treating us like a slave? And they say, oh, now I see. We don't even know that we are bound, right? So ऐसी कुछ हमारी हालत हो गई है, he was saying, because from so many lifetimes we keep coming back, so we just think that the ways of this world this is how it is. He's saying that koi bolega ki, oh, you are bound. And you say, what do you mean I'm bound? I'm free. I can go to all the parties that I want to. I'm having a good time. Why are you thinking that you know what I'm saying? From the Adhyatmic perspective, we are not free. That's what they're trying to make us realize. And then there's another thing in Vedanta, which they say, we all are kind of sleeping. That's why they say, wake up. Like Vivekanandaji's great words, wake up. Arise and awake, he said. He got it from the Vedanta only. And he was just talking about India also, that, the British ruled us for 250 years. So there were many generations who were born within that kind of bondage. And only few people kind of realized that, hey, we need to fight. This is not wrong. Baki sab log chal raha hai gaadi, and then they awoke people, and then they work for freedom. And that same way, these saints and sages, they are the one who make us awake. Hey, you are in bondage. Wake up, So that's what it is. So he was just saying that this identification with the body that we experience ourselves as limited being. And in reality, he is saying that our nature is free, very all-pervading bliss, peace, but we are stuck in this body in a small way, and then we feel bound. So that's what the whole thing is. So he's saying that the rare few who realize that they are in bondage, they strive for freedom, and he gave the example of Gautam Buddha. Gautam Buddha was like his famous words are Sarvam Dukkham Dukkham Sarvam Shanikam Shanikam. Shanikam means temporary. Everything is temporary. Everything is this. And Bhagwan mentioned also this world is Dukkhale Ashashvatam. Dukkhale is full of pain. Nobody needs to tell us. As we're getting older, we know. Full of pain. And then Kshanikam, temporary. Nobody needs to tell us. We hear the news every month, somebody, quitting this world. So, and then he was just saying that Buddha had everything worldly. All the material things he had a beautiful wife and all the comforts, but then he realized he was in bondage. So that's why he wanted to find out what freedom is. He just gave that example. So then one who understands this way, he will strive on this path. And then Bhagwan has given a very simple path, according to Nikhilanandji. You see, all you have to do is, you don't need to change your job, you don't need to change your duties, you don't need to change your home, nothing. Or what do you need to do? Dedicate everything to me. Okay, first understand what is the nature of Bhagwan, and then dedicate all your action, emotion, activities to me. then you will come to me. And then when he just reminded us, because when we say come to me, we think Bhagwan is somewhere far away. He's saying you will attain your own nature. That's the most important thing. That's why the consciousness is denoted as self with they call it self, right? With the capital S. So this is in my own Atma. Your own nature you will realize. And that is a real freedom. So now let's analyze these words. Sannyas, Yoga, Yuktatma. So those who are endowed with Sannyas Yoga, Bhagwan said. So when we say sannyas, what does it mean? Giving up something. Right? उसको छोड़ देना किसी चीज को. और योग मतलब to connect, but connect with the right action. So what do you drop? So there are different ways to approach this. What do you drop? When we see Swamiji's commentary, he's going to say, drop the fruit of action. अब बोलते हैं ना कर्म फल की चिंता मत करो. Actually, it's not the correct word, चिंता मत करो. It means तुम्हारा डिपार्टमेंट नहीं है कर्म फल. So just don't worry about it. You will get what the right result is. You don't need to worry about it. That's what it means. And then doership also you give up. And then action mein, when you are dedicating it to Bhagwan, that becomes yoga. So see, yoga sannyas. You see the word, how it is coined? You give up something, but you dedicate it to Bhagwan. So that's why it is yoga. And then this, when we dedicate this action to God, then also it's called sannyas on from one hand, because you are not worrying about what I am getting out of it, number one, right? Your selfish desire is gone when you are dedicating it to something higher. It's like something like a mother. When she is, a small infant is there, how much she sacrifices, right? She gives up her own desires and she does it totally happily. The child's desire becomes her desire, right? Same way, God's desire becomes your desire and you don't have any of your own desire. So that's why you're giving up that sannyas and you are acting. So it is a yoga. That's how it's. Once you do this way, you become free. विमुक्त हो जाओगे तुम. And जो वो एक word coined किया है ना, a lot of swamis that they say that जीवन मुक्ति. जीवन mukti means moksha while you are living. That this word vimukta, that's what it means. That while you are living, you become free. So that is the meaning of this sannyasa yoga, yuktatma vimukta. And then one very interesting point, Swamiji brought, Nikhilanandji brought, that, this is our greatness and uniqueness of our scripture that is talking about this mukti right now, while you are in this body. While living, you become free. Because he's saying that many other religions, and even in our own Sanatan Dharma, a lot of karma kand is there. If somebody wants swarg jane ke liye, they will tell you the remedy, how to do it. But he's saying that swarg jane ki jo baat hai na, nobody has any guarantee. You know why? Because मरने के बाद जाते हैं वहाँ पे. तो मरने के बाद तो कोई जाके वापस नहीं आया और बोला what, मैंने इतना सारा यज्ञ किया और मेरे को स्वर्ग ही नहीं मिला. हम लोग को मालूम ही नहीं मिला. मतलब it's not a complete method anymore. I thought that was such an interesting point. But he's saying that this particular thing, Bhagwan is saying, if you do like that, तुमको अभी मिल जाएगा. तो हमारे पास प्रूफ होएगा कि नहीं है कि अभी कभी मिल जाएगा. तो कोई मरने के बाद वापस नहीं आया कंप्लेन करने के लिए कि मुझे नहीं मिला स्वर्ग. I thought that was a very interesting point he brought. And he's saying that because of that, lot of people can take advantage of you. तुमको बुद्धू भी बना सकते हैं कि भाई ये करो स्वर्ग जाओगे. बट उसको वापस थोड़ी आएगा बोलने के लिए अगर नहीं मिला स्वर्ग. तो सब कुछ किया मैंने, ये दान किया, ये पूजा की, ये किया. So this particular method that Bhagwan is talking about, to get the freedom while we are living, is a foolproof method. I like that approach a lot, So he's saying that if otherwise you can say it's imagination or gimmick, some लोग बोलते हैं ना कि मैं मरने के बाद क्या होता है. ठीक है, you can take that. We don't know what happens. This is just a saying. And then he also said that, look, there are so many hundreds of realized masters are there, and we have a living proof that they are in peace, they are in bliss, they do so much, and we want to become like that. So we have a proof also कि हम लोग को नहीं मिला तो भी हम देखते हैं दूसरे लोग, and all around the world. इंडिया में ज़्यादा होते हैं, मगर फिर भी people are there all around the world from different religions also. They are self-realized. So, but then he said that very interesting thing again. He said, even to understand them, the self-realized masters, you need a little bit of understanding, and you need some wisdom, and you need some purity of mind. नहीं तो वो लोग उनको भी question करेंगे. Oh, like they say, oh, if Ramakrishna Paramhans was so self-realized, why did he die of cancer? बोलते हैं ना लोग. Why he did not cure himself and all that? Because you have to understand that he doesn't care about his body. He's saying body ki karma. जो भी उसको मिला है, he's not bothered about that because he's already free. He's not connected with all these things. उनके जो चेले होते हैं वो बेचारे ज़्यादा दुखी होते हैं. मतलब ठीक है, तुमको जो इलाज करना है तुम करो, उनको खुश करने के लिए. उनका बच्चा तो कुछ करेंगे भी नहीं. That's a different story. We are not there yet. But he just saying that he was just saying that we may not understand all that whole aspect. And then he gave a kind of an interesting drishtant, or maybe an example. I don't know if that will explain, but I kind of got the picture. He said that it's like somebody speaking in a mic, right? His voice is all clear and all that, but mic mein kuch gadbad hai. So then the voice will come bad. Does that mean the person's voice is bad? No. It's the equipment has some issue. The same way these realized souls, their equipment may have a problem, because the body ka dharma is like that it gets old and it gets, disease and die. But they are completely free. They have nothing to do with that problemed body. That's what he was trying to say. So sometimes those kind of questions come up. Maybe that's why he brought that up. So I thought that was kind of interesting. And then the other last part, Bhagwan said, Mamu Peshyasi, that these people who are Jivan Mukta, who got that moksha while living, when they drop the body, they come to me. So they are in this world doing their stuff and all that, and they are free. They're connected with God completely. But once they drop the body, they don't have to come back with this chakkar of birth and death. That's called Mamu Upeshyasi, the last two words of this verse. That's what it means. So one who realizes God, he becomes one with it. And that's what, Vedanta says is again and again. And there's a very famous words in Vedanta, Brahmavit Brahmeva Bhavati. Means the one who realizes Brahman becomes Brahman. Knower of Brahman becomes Brahman. We saw this in our Taittiriya Upanishad. It had that statement. He doesn't remain different from that reality. And then this example is given by him many times, but it's a very good time to again look at that example. It will make everything clear. He's saying it's like the pot, and there is a space in the pot, and the space in the pot thinks, oh, I'm separate, oh, I'm small, I'm this. But in reality, its space is one. It doesn't matter. The same way the person may be thinking, oh, I'm so limited and all. He's not. He just doesn't know it. And if you think about it, nothing happens to that space, and it does not matter whether the pot is there or not. Pot is there, still the space is free. Pot breaks, still the space is free. See what I'm saying? So that's what this oneness he's talking about. Okay, the broken pot, it doesn't matter. He's saying that pure consciousness is like that space. So this is the conclusion that, such a person attains me, who does this, dedicate and all that. And then when we see Swamiji's commentary, he's going to bring the Karma Yoga part that maybe when you read it on your own, you got a little bit confused, but we will clarify it. And then the next verse is going to talk about that, nature of that Brahman and from another angle. And Nikhilanandji said, now some people might say, Bhagwan, you are very partial. You you just want to give freedom to people who understand. वो बेचारों का क्या होगा, the people who don't understand? So then Bhagwan will answer कि क्या मैं करता हूँ. So that's what this verse is. Any question or comment? Was it too complicated?
Umaji, so it's, I know I always have questions.
No,
I'm
that's
sorry.
good. That's good. There's nothing wrong.
So the confusion is like, when you say you become free from karma bandhan and then you attain God. So I'm realizing that you become, your consciousness becomes one with Brahman. But then again, is that non-existence or is it?
No. Okay. So when we
Because
think
like now you're one with Brahman, so there is no me existing anymore, right?
from one perspective, you are still in the body, and you might think that, hey, these kind of people, फिर वो लोग को कोई भी काम करने की क्या जरूरत है, right? ऐसे ही सोचेंगे हम लोग. They can just, if somebody got the highest thing, why do they need to do anything? That is true. They don't need to do anything, but why do they do it? It's like if I have one body, right? And then my eye got hurt. Immediately my hands will go and massage it, even though the hand may have poked it. I don't cut off my finger. They feel the oneness, they feel the compassion, because they don't see anybody else out there is different from themselves. So if they are in pain, they want to fix it whatever way they can. That's why they work. So they are not working कि मुझे ये घर मिल जाए, मुझे ये पैसे मिल जाए, मुझे ये शोहरत मिल जाए, मुझे उसके लिए वो काम नहीं करते फिर. You see all these Mahatmas, how they work. They are constantly thinking how to make this world a better place. You know that Sadhguru पता नहीं कौन से project करते रहते हैं and things like that, or Ramdev Baba or other people. Some people may criticize them, but they are doing it for the people. They don't have anything themselves. So their ego is eliminated completely. That's what it. अभी उनको कोई गाली भी दे, कुछ भी करे, चलते जाएंगे वो लोग, चलते जाएंगे. हम लोग को कोई बोलेगा तो हम लोग, oh my God, my reputation, my this, हम लोग बैठ जाएंगे डिप्रेस होके. उनको कोई फर्क नहीं पड़ता. That's what is when he say I've become one with Brahman. That's what it means. So whether you have the body or not doesn't matter to them. That's why they have no fear of death or anything like that either. Does it make that clear?
Yeah, a little bit. Yes.
Little bit. Yeah, slowly. If you're getting a little bit, it's kind of hard for us to understand this concept. And then karma bandhan इसलिए नहीं होता है because कर्मों का फल ना ego को मिलता है. And one of the example I can give is that postman आता है कि कोई चिट्ठी डालता है हमारे मेल बॉक्स में. समझो मेल बॉक्स ही घर ही नहीं है, तो फिर वो डालेगा कहाँ चिट्ठी? तो कर्म का फल हमको मिलेगा ही नहीं, बिकॉज ईगो ही नहीं है. सो अगर वो हम लोग की नजरों में शायद वो कोई गलत काम कर रहा हो, बट इफ ही हैज रीच दैट मोक्ष स्टेट, उसको कोई पाप पुण्य दोनों ही नहीं लगता, उसको पाप भी नहीं लगता उसको. एंड देन वो जो बोलेगा ना वही शास्त्र बन जाता है, बिकॉज ही इज वन विद दैट ब्राह्मण. It's like that's why this Bhagavad Gita is so important, because Krishna Bhagwan had a complete oneness with that consciousness when he said this. उन्होंने भी शरीर धारण किया था कि नहीं जब भी आए थे. तो बाद में after the war was over and all that, one time I think I've told this is a very important piece of information in Mahabharata. Arjun asked Bhagwan Krishna, I want to hear Gita again from you. And Bhagwan says, sorry Parth, I can't do it. Because at that moment, he was completely in tune with that highest. So whatever he said, as though the consciousness is speaking. Later on, he did say something, but, like masterpiece is always one. So that's why Bhagavad Gita ka itna zyada importance hai, because the circumstances were just right for him to give this knowledge to all of us through Arjun. So... Any other question or comment?
Manji, this is all about purification of mind. isn't it?
Yes. It is all about that. That's another angle, 100% you can take. The more mind is purified, the more we are moving towards that moksha. Yeah.
And then mind, when it is not purified, is driven by desires, and that's where the ego steps in.
Yes. So ego को बस छोटा करते हैं, finally eliminate कर दो. That's what the whole idea is. Because एकदम से नहीं हो सकता eliminate, you know. And that's why they talk about 3 gunas also. Because if you have too much of tamo guna and rajo guna, then it also doesn't happen. So you have to first go into more sattvic mode. So you can meditate more and all the good qualities are coming out of you and all that. And then purity becomes a little more. Transparency becomes more.
So you are dropping your sheets slowly and slowly, isn't it?
Yeah, you are dropping your sheets in a sense. Physically, you don't have to drop, but it is with the understanding you are dropping. I'm not this, I'm not. That's why, you are satsang and, meditation and staying with this. You will feel the purity of the mind. Then, somebody said that, how do you know that it is happening? So Swamiji, Chinmayanand ji had a very good answer. He said, when everybody starts liking you a lot, then you know you have a pure mind. Nobody wants to sit next to a pure mind talking always negative stuff, When your friend circle increase and all that, you should know that, you're on the right path. And
it's very, very important to keep the right company.
Oh, yes. Especially in the beginning. बाद में, like the saints and sages, वो तो बोलते जितने दुष्ट हैं सबको बुलाओ मेरे पास. हम लोग ऐसा नहीं कर पाएंगे because influence हो जाते हैं. See, now, probably, after staying with Gita a long time, you won't doubt that, okay, these are Krishna Bhagwan's word. But there are people who will try to shake even that faith in you. So, किसने बोला कि भगवान पैदा हुए थे? क्या proof है? ये है, वो है. They will start bringing, somebody brought the thing. How could they speak in, music and, क्या बोलते हैं, इसको गा भी सकते हैं ना, भगवद गीता को. Because it's like, पूरे छंद वगैरह में से, how can you speak? ऐसे भगवान तो कुछ भी कर सकते हैं भाई. There are people who know how to speak in poetry. They can instantly make poetry. अभी भी है दुनिया में ऐसे लोग. I'm just saying that जिसको डाउट करना होएगा वो कुछ भी पकड़ के बैठ जाएगा. But if once we develop that shraddha and faith, and or even this way, if I'm not understanding something, I need to find out what Krishna Bhagwan is actually saying. Asking questions, reading people's commentary, going to wise people, and asking them, then you will clear your doubts. Okay, my usual readers are not here. Only Anil ji is there. Anybody else would like to read? Falguni ji, you want to try? Yeah, try.
Okay. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Thus shalt thou be freed from the bonds of actions yielding good and evil fruits, with the mind steadfast in the yoga renunciation, and liberated thou shalt come unto me. Continue?
Yeah, you can continue.
The spiritual goal remaining the same, the divine paths are different, and when the different paths are explained, though they look mutually very different from each other, they all have the same scientific basis that justifies each one of them. At many places in Gita, this fundamental basis has been directly brought to the recognition of the students, while in some few instances it is slightly veiled so that the only careful students can always come to recognize it. Here in this section, we are in the midst of discussion on how, by living life in a spirit of offering, the individual can come to claim and enjoy the highest perfection, which meditation promised earlier, or the yagna spirit guaranteed at another place.
So, what Swamiji is trying to explain over here, that if we just look at Gita like superficially and we would say, okay, there are 3 paths, right? Karma yoga, bhakti yoga, jnana yoga, right? And we might think that there are so distinct paths. Either you पकड़ो कर्म योगा को पकड़ लो या उसको पकड़ लो, इसको सब अलग अलग है, ये वो है. Actually सब merge हो जाते हैं एक दूसरे में. End में उनका result भी एक ही है. But it depends on what kind of personality I am. Suppose if you are very, तुमको वैराग्य बहुत जल्दी से आ जाता है. कई लोग ऐसे होते हैं ना कि बचपन में ही वो मेडिटेट करना शुरू कर देते हैं. Like when I go to this Hare Krishna temple, there are these young brahmacharis, उन्होंने संन्यास ले लिया इतना जल्दी because वो टीनेज में ही उनको वैराग्य हो गया. सभी तो ऐसे नहीं हो सकते, राइट? ठीक है, अगर if you have that, you follow that directly, sannyas yoga. Nobody is talking about it. And then some people love bhakti, but then you have to understand what true bhakti is. When we are talking about real bhakti, dedicating everything to Bhagwan. And then others are like action oriented. Most of us are like that. We work in the world. So Bhagwan ने इतनी अच्छी रेमेडी बताई है कि तुमको कुछ डायरेक्टली कहीं और जाने की जरूरत नहीं है. तुम जो काम कर रहे हो उसी को पूजा बना दो तुम. एंड इफ यू कंटिन्यू, अपने आप भक्ति भी आ जाएगी, ज्ञान भी आ जाएगा, एंड यू विल रीच द हाईएस्ट. दैट्स व्हाट ही इज सेइंग बेसिकली इन दिस, दैट हे, whatever you can gain. Some people say, unless you like drop everything and like Buddha ki tarah you have to sit under the tree. Bhagwan said, no, you don't need to do all that. You can be a householder and you can get moksha also. That's what he's trying to say. Easiest path, and that's why he chose Arjuna. Otherwise, अगर उनको गीता अगर खाली ऐसे हाई फाई लोगों को बोलनी होती तो दूसरे भी धुरंधर लोग बैठे थे वहाँ पे, राइट? उनको बोल देते. लेकिन उन्होंने चुना जान बूझ के अर्जुन को, कंफ्यूज आदमी को, हमारे जैसे कंफ्यूज लोगों को, कि भाई तुम भी कर सकते हो. That's what is basically this paragraph is telling you.
It has been very clearly brought home to us by now that it is the granulations made up of the past impressions in the mental zone that raise a mist in us, which veils the effulgent glory of the self in us from ourselves. To cleanse the atmosphere of the hanging dust of past impressions is the duty of a seeker. The purgation of the vasanas can be successfully undertaken only when the mind is allowed to act and serve freely in any given field of work without ego and egocentric desires. Any method by which we continue to float on the stream of life without bringing into play our egocentric arrogations would be a method of cleansing the impressions of the past actions. This conducive mental, this spam call, sorry about that.
That's okay.
Where was I?
This
conducive mental climate can be gained if we sincerely pursue the technique described above, wherein it is advised that we should strive to live the whole life as a constant love offering unto the Lord.
Okay, so now this might sound very, very confusing because Swamiji uses big sentence and high-fi words. So, how do I explain this? So basically, जो हमारी desires, everybody understood that we have these innate urges coming from so many lifetimes, impressions, bolo, vasanas. I don't know if everybody understands the word vasanas, and it is the vasanas are nothing but, when suppose we die, right? So our body will be cremated or buried over here on this earth. The 5 elements go back to 5 elements. Mind, intellect, and the subtle impressions travel to the other life. And the subtle impressions are nothing but our subtle desires in the form of these impressions. That's why when a child is born, he has certain likes and dislikes. They're coming from that vasanas. Vasanas means, vas means gandh. That's the Sanskrit ka meaning. So जैसे कोई फूल होता है उसकी गंध वायु ले जाती है ना, वैसे ही जब हम when we die, हमारे जो पर्सनालिटी का वास है वो जाता है हमारे साथ. So the idea is to go to the desireless state. वास को कम करते जाओ, वासना को, और फाइनली एलिमिनेट कर दो. तो उसका मेथड क्या है कि when we are born with these tendencies, and I enjoy doing those things. Like it can be anything. Suppose hobbies ले लो, सबकी अलग अलग hobbies है. How we enjoy doing our hobby. So Bhagwan is saying, do that hobby, but do it without egocentric desires. Then you will purge them. You will get rid of those, and then you will not create new ones. That is the whole idea. A very simple example. Suppose somebody knows how to sing very well. By all means, go and do the concert, sing. But sing for the sake of singing. Don't say, मेरे को ये मिल जाएगा, वो मिल जाएगा, इतने पैसे मिल जाएंगे, इतना fame मिल जाएगा. If you really look at it, the people who are very, very good at what they do, they don't care about anything in the world except that they'll enjoy what they're doing. You guys agree? आंख बंद करके गाएंगे, चाहे 5,000 लोग हो, चाहे 5 हो, कोई भी नहीं होगा तो खुद ही ऐसे ही गाना शुरू कर देंगे. You know? So that's what it is, that you don't think of, मेरे को क्या मिलेगा ये whole time पे. And so if you start acting like that for everything, when you don't put yourself first, that's when you will become less and less vasanas, your desires will get less, and new desires are not going to be formed. That's what he's trying to say in this. Did I make it clear? That is what karma yoga is. So you are doing action, you are doing what you have to do anyway, but you are doing it with not egocentric point of view. That's all. If we can understand this much, then we can make progress.
Whenever you do something as an offering to God, सर कितना हल्का हो जाता है.
That's what he's trying to say, कि सर हल्का हो जाएगा और दूसरे डर्ट नहीं आएगा. अगर कुछ खराब भी हो गया तो तुमने उसका जो बुरा और अच्छा दोनों फल दे दिया ना. अगर तुमने उसको ध्यान ही नहीं दिया कि भाई मेरे को ये काम करना है, whether it comes good or bad, I don't care. You have offered it to God.
I do my best.
I do my best and leave the rest. It's a famous saying. That's what it means. And जो भक्त होता है ना, वो भी ऐसे ही सोचता है, सब कुछ भगवान को अर्पण. अगर मुझे कोई it's called प्रसाद बुद्धि, जो रिजल्ट मिलता है उसको प्रसाद बुद्धि से लो. प्रसाद में हम लोग नखरा नहीं करते हैं. When we go in a line to get a prasad, whatever the Pandit gives, he might give you a banana or he might give you a mango. You don't stand there and say, no, Pandit ji, I don't like this prasad. Can you give me another one? None of us will do that. So that way, if Bhagwan is giving you the result, he knows better. I may think in my own egocentric way that, hey, why did I not get what I deserve? But I don't even know what I deserve because I don't know the bigger picture. So that's a lot of things are included in this. So if we can accept everything that comes to us with grace as a prasada buddhi, dedicate our all action to God, automatically our vasanas start getting eliminated. And the other method, Krishna Bhagwan said, don't come under the sway of your likes and dislikes. मुझे ये अच्छा लगता है, मुझे वो नहीं अच्छा लगता है, ये है, वो है. Whole time, इसको भगाओ, उसको लेके आओ. In the flow of life, little pinpricks, don't worry about it. Just continue. Then your mind becomes, fit. Your mind, your vasanas start. Then you will do your duties correctly. Because sometimes, duties may be conducive to your vasana or may not be conducive to your vasana. Correct? हर एक चीज तो हमारी ड्यूटी में जो हम लोग को मिलती है, हम लोग को अच्छी नहीं लगती. I may not like to clean my house or something, but that's part of my duty if I live in the house. So that's what it is. You do a job and 3 aspects of your job you like a lot and 2 aspects you don't because they're not conducive to your vasana, but you still have to do it. So you keep doing that way, then you become fit and then you learn to dedicate it to higher altar. Everything. And then you don't get that result. So it sounds complicated, but the method is very simple.
उमा जी जब अपना घर साफ करते हैं तो कई बार लगता है कि oh my God ये क्या कर रहे हैं, but when you clean a mandir,
exactly, तभी all those rich people also, they might have many maids and they will take a झाड़ू and and वो जो गुरुद्वारे में तो इंडिया में वो लोग चप्पल साफ करते हैं.
बिल्कुल.
And my boys they were young, they were like in their teens. they were so amazed because उनके जूते वूते काफी गंदे हो गए थे ना, इंडिया में इतनी धूल मिट्टी होती है. And when we went to Gurudwara and we came back and they said, Mom, look at my shoes. And they were like, wow. And then somebody said, these women who are cleaning your shoes in their own home, they are like Maharanis. They have like 10 servants. But unme wo seva bhav, okay, we are doing it like that. You know, humility lane ke liye, that's what they do. So true what you're saying. That, and then the famous thing we talked about last time, that Shabri is doing jhadu became her puja because she was thinking of Ram the whole time. You know, so that's what they're trying to tell us, that, you know, dedicated to God, dedicated to, and sometimes if you don't know God right now, I don't have a complete understanding, even you dedicate to a higher altar, that's good. You know, if you are very, very egocentric, then do it for your family, do it for your society, do it for your country, you know, like that you step up. But ultimate is doing for that Bhagwan.
When actions are undertaken, thus without ego, the reactions of those actions, whether good or bad, cannot reach us, since the one to suffer or enjoy the reactions would be out of station from the given bosom. The ego acts, and it is the ego that receives the reactions. If deaf man were to howl in an enclosed valley, he cannot receive the echo, because when the echo reaches his ears, the hearer is not therein to receive it.
So this is the same thing I told you about the postman also, where if the house is not there, where will he deliver the mail? So that's why they're saying that when your ego is completely annihilated, that's why you don't get the results anyway. You know, but since we have that ego still, we suffer joy, sorrow, constantly. We keep getting results. You know, that's the goal. Oh, you became mute.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry.
So you have to start over.
Okay. Hence, Bhagwan says, you shall be free from the bondages of actions, good or evil. Since the reactions arising from the fresh actions do not add their impressions onto the mind, and since the existing impressions get wiped out during the mind's activities in the world outside, slowly and steadily, the mind gets almost a total purgation of all its existing contents. In short, the mind becomes more and more purified, the term being used in scriptural sense. A purified mind has more concentration and single-pointedness.
So this is again summarizing the whole thing, you know, about the karma yoga and all that. And then Anilji was talking about the purified mind. Here he's explaining that as your vasanas get eliminated and new ones are not piled up, your mind gets pure. And the pure mind is, you will understand who God is very nicely. So there is, you know, all these verses are related to each other. So when we go backwards in Bhagavad Gita, Arjun got all depressed and all that in chapter 1. Chapter 2, Bhagwan started, after Arjun surrendered to him, Bhagwan started telling him about who he really is, revealed the nature, you are eternal and all that. It's not that easy to understand the eternal nature of ours, right? So Bhagwan ne bola ki, look, this body has a lot of change. Body is constantly changing. The world is constantly changing. So there are two factors. One is non-changing, one is changing aspect. Now, changing aspect is easy to understand, right? We can see everything, and it's constantly, seasons are changing, trees are changing, everything. A body is changing. We can see that we were a little baby, now we are, with, whatever. We can see that. So he said that these when our senses come in contact with the world, then we kind of face dukh sukh. If we have come on this earth, dukh sukh to hoega hai, right? Because all these results are going to come and all that. He said that don't get affected by it. It's like, then usse kya fayda hoga? You will become fit to understand this knowledge. even to understand this knowledge, we need purity of mind to an extent. So if we become, like udasin word use kiya उन्होंने, लेकिन udasin word has a very negative connotation in our Hindi language कि भाई उदास हो गया, कोई ऐसा नहीं, उस सेंस से नहीं. उदासीन मतलब आसीन मतलब ऊपर उठ गया है उससे, उसको इतना फर्क नहीं पड़ता है. कुछ नेगेटिव हुआ, पॉजिटिव में वो भंगड़ा नहीं करना शुरू कर देगा, और अगर नेगेटिव में डिप्रेस नहीं हो जाएगा, बीच में रहेगा वो. That's what he's trying to say, that balance of mind is created, then you become fit to understand or go further. So that's the whole connection with this verse. This paragraph, sorry.
The next stage of evolution would be that such a purified mind, discovering in itself more and more discrimination, learns to live a life of sannyasa and yoga. Both these terms are to be understood in Gita way. Earlier, these terms were elaborately discussed. Sannyasa or renunciation is not the physical rejection of the world, but in the language of the Gita, sannyasa is the renunciation of all egocentric activities and all anxieties of cravings for the fruits of actions. These two effects would be natural in one who is striving diligently in the world as an expression of his love for the Lord, and only to dedicate in the end all the results unto the Lord as an offering.
So he's again explaining in his own way with lot of other different things that we learned before in Bhagavad Gita, that when we say sannyas, we immediately think कि सब कुछ छोड़ छाड़ के जो जंगल में बैठ गया वो सन्यासी है. But भगवान ने पूरा different definition दिया है. Sannyasi can be a person who has a $1 million company and he is a CEO, वो भी सन्यासी हो सकता है. कैसे? By doing these two things. All renunciation of egocentric activities, he's not doing it anything just for himself, and all anxieties or cravings for the fruit of action. Meaning, मेरे को ये फिक्स रिजल्ट मिल जाए, ऐसी क्रेविंग जिसके पास नहीं है और जो ईगोसेंट्रिक डिजायर्स नहीं है, वो सन्यासी है. सो इट्स पॉसिबल कि कोई नकली सन्यासी भी बैठा हो किसी गुफा में, और वो सोच रहा है कि मैं सन्यासी हूँ, पर उसमें डिजायर भरी हुई है. आधे टाइम वो किसी और चीज़ का चिंतन करता हो भगवान को छोड़ के, एंड द वन हु इज running a big company, $1 billion company, he may be a sannyasi because he's just doing it as a job. Usko mil raha hai fruit ye wo, but he's not craving for it. He's just doing his job, and in that, if he gets something, great. If he doesn't get it, he still keep doing it. So that's how we have to see what he's trying to say. And then this person who does all these things, he actually acts like he's offering everything to the higher self, and then he's acting from that perspective. So he explained this karma yoga from another angle also.
One who has come to live the Gita Sannyasa and has developed thereby a pure mind, full to the brim, sweetened with discrimination, to him yoga is natural, especially so because all through the hours of his activity, he is constantly remembering the self, the infinite.
So now remember, Bhagwan ne kai baar bola ki don't, you have to constantly remember me, and then we said that constantly remember me, it doesn't mean sit down and do bhajan or drop everything and meditate all 24 hours. That's not what it means. It means having that awareness of that Brahman in everything that you do. So he's saying that if you have this, first step is having that sannyas of what? Egocentric activities, and give up the fruit of action. Automatically, if you do those two things, you will be in that awareness of God. That's what he's trying to say. One will lead to the other thing automatically. So we should focus on those A and B, that what was mentioned before. Yeah.
Naturally, such a seeker discovers to himself that his earlier identifications with the false and the consequent sense of limitations and pains of mortality fall off from him, and he discovers himself to be of his divine nature. By practice and renunciation, you shall find release and come to me.
So, this, whoever remembers chapter 6, practice and renunciation, abhyas and vairagya, राइट हम लोग ने कई बार डिस्कस किया कि अर्जुन को बोल रहे थे कि तुम ना व्हेन यू सिट इन मेडिटेशन कनेक्ट टू द हायर, मन को कंट्रोल करो. तो अर्जुन ने बोला मन को कंट्रोल करूं, मन तो जैसे कि हरिकेन विंड्स है. इट इज यू आई कांट कंट्रोल, इज सो स्ट्रांग एंड इट जस्ट टेक्स मी हियर देयर. It's just like he was just comparing it to this very strong high winds. Sometimes here we get it, right? सब कुछ उड़ जाता है उसमें. So भगवान ने ये नहीं बोला कि नहीं ये सब गलत है. भगवान ने बोला हाँ पार्थ, मुझे मालूम है तेरा मन सभी का मन ऐसा ही होता है. Very, very strong, unyielding, and doesn't want to listen to you. But with abhyas and vairagya, you can control it. So abhyas means practice. Every day, practice that, whatever we learn. And vairagya is like what we learned. There are two things he mentioned about vairagya. Give up the egocentric activities and give up the anxiety. And another way you can say vairagya means knowing fully well that this world is a changing place. That's why you have that vairagya. How can I have attachment to these things? Because whatever I have attachment to, they're going to change tomorrow. So that's why I don't want to have the attachment. So that's why I want to hang on to the one that doesn't change, and which is consciousness or God, whatever you want to say. So whichever way you want to look at renunciation, you can.
The steady logic of thought that can be detected running all through the Gita by every careful student gives it the dignity and status of textbook of science in the world's literature. Nowhere in the Gita does one find a slipshod expression which grates against the rhythmic flow of thought. At certain moments, the obvious meaning of some stanzas may give us a false jerk, but such stanzas we feel are deliberately kept there to make the student think for himself more and more sincerely and discover the harmony and rhythm of thought that are so beautifully veiled by such stanzas.
So Swamiji is just saying that when we read it, he's saying, ये बीच में क्या डाला है भगवान ने? शुभ फल ये सब. But there is a deep connection with so many previous verses. So it requires a little contemplation, and then, with all these commentaries, now we can relate all these verses to the previously what we have learned. And, that's what Bhagwan is coming to the conclusion almost over here about, hey, what does it mean to dedicate everything to God? What does it mean to remember God all the time and all that? Giving some practical ways, and with a little bit of commentary, thinking, and all that contemplation, we can understand this verse. Hopefully we did something today to understand this and have the connection. I know it may be hard for people who just joined, but I would say stick with it. It'll get better for sure.
Swami Sarva Priyananda, he said one thing, that through all this meditation and bhakti and all, you were servant to your mind, and now mind becomes your servant.
Correct. Absolutely. So you become the master. Yes. Right. Yes. Yeah. And there is a very famous saying by Chinmayanandji that freedom is not to do what you feel like doing. And it's very confusing what they say. But that exactly what you mean, that when we are slave to our likes and dislikes and desires and our mind, we are like slaves. But master is the one that, hey, I want to, what is right, that's what I'm going to do. Yes. The wisdom takes over. Wisdom is, so that whole analogy of the chariot is for that purpose only. Yeah. That the reins, the mind is in the hand of Krishna, which is your higher purified self. It's a beautiful analogy. वो हाथ में होना चाहिए, mind should be controlled by that wisdom. Right. Yeah. So, any question, comment before we close Bhagavad Gita?
So, Maji, this clarifies meditation for me, because you always struggle when they say meditation is empty your mind, which is very hard to do. But control your mind, it would be an easier I don't know, it will be little
To begin, oh yes,
more
oh yes.
human to be able to control your mind than achieve the emptiness, devoid of thoughts. But if you can control it and purify it, that may be
That's a better, easier way. Absolutely. And with the meditation also, because sometimes they control your mind and you should not have any thoughts. We cannot jump to that state so easily. It's impossible. और उल्टा होता है. When you say, कोई बोलेगा कि oh, don't think of apple. अगर मैं ऐसा बोल दूं तो एप्पल ही एप्पल आएगा दिमाग. Correct? All they are trying to tell you is observe your thoughts and tell you are not the thoughts. लेकिन ये मालूम भी होना चाहिए ना, आई एम नॉट द थॉट्स. वी हैव टू स्टडी वेदांता. हे, आई एम दैट प्योर कॉन्शियसनेस. एंड सो वंस यू डोंट engage with that thought, वो slowly quantity of thoughts कम हो जाता है. Just by observing. That's why they tell you to do the breath. They have so many techniques for that. To clean our mind of too many. First we have to make the quantity less. Then we have to make quality better. That's why satsang is so important. Instead of constantly worldly problem. If you keep watching news and all that, no, you'll never be able to meditate. Because पूरी दुनिया लग रहा है कि it is going to hell only. Because they repeat it so many times and they will only say the negative. कोई अच्छी बात तो बहुत कम news में होती है. So you have to guard yourself and that's why it's satsang and whatever you are saying, and then taking the approach of controlling and doing, like, try to understand who God is, then automatically it starts dropping. The small little mundane things won't bother you. That's the whole idea.
Like I would put it in 3 steps, like purgation, then purify, and then cleansing.
Yes.
So if you go in step by step, it may become easier process than going straight.
Going straight. You'll get frustrated. We get frustrated if we try to do too much together. And even Swamiji used to advise that when in the beginning, don't try to sit for very long hours and things like that. We're not trying to compete with anybody here, right? So you got to observe what is working for me. That's the most important thing. You have to compete with yourself, not copy anybody, not, do anything like that. Shall I close? सर्वधर्मान् परित्यज्य मामेकं शरणं व्रज अहं त्वा सर्वपापेभ्यः मोक्षयिष्यामि मा शुचः. हरि ओम. श्री गुरुभ्यो नमः. हरि ओम.